Alright, so this is a variation of the last video that you just watched. If you haven't taken a look at the last video, please watch it first. This is a greatest integer function with an adjustment. It's a translation. So we're going to see how to pick some numbers that will help us to graph this accurately. So here's what I have. I have a -2 I'm going to put in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remember that there's a process of, there's an operation I have to work before I can ask the question, what's the greatest integer not greater than? So this is -2 plus 1 is -1. Now that's still in the greatest integer function notation there, or just the indicators. So my question really in this putting in a -2 is, what is the greatest integer not greater than -1? Well, again, if I look at my number line and I do it very graphically, it tends to be pretty easy for people to understand. What's the greatest integer not greater than -1? -1. Okay, let's put in a -1 3/4. I'm crawling up the graph. Now this was the number that I put in, but then my question had to be about this one, right, on that last one. So let's just see here. Let's go ahead and put in -1 3/4, and then the +1, and that gives me a -3/4 inside the greatest integer function indicators. So this is the number I'm going to put down on my number line. What is the greatest integer not greater than 3/4? Well, it's still going to be -1, as you can see from the arrow. It can't be 0 because that's greater than. It has to be the greatest integer not greater than the arrow. Okay, so here we go, -1 1/2. So that's going to be a -1/2 in there. You can see how I get that without all of the intermediate step showing. So that's going to be -1. -1 1/4 is going to give me a -1. What's going to happen when I put in a -1 though? I put in a -1 into this adjusted greatest integer function and I get a 0. Well, what's the greatest integer not greater than 0? That's where I'm going to put my arrow, and I see that it's 0. So let's go ahead and see if we can get a pretty accurate picture here. Get this graphed. I don't need a whole lot of room, so I'm not going to use all the graph paper. Okay. I'm going to put in the -2, and then I have a -1. There's -2, -1. Then I have -1 3/4, and I'm still going to go down -1. There's that. -1 1/2, -1. Put in -1 1/4. I'm still going down -1. As soon as I go over -1, though, I'm going to go to 0. That's a point that has to be solid because it's on my table. So I'm going to fill in right here, fill in here until I get to this -1 space, and I'm going to put an open circle because all of a sudden I've jumped up, I've stepped up. Well, that's enough to give me my pattern. I know that my adjusted graph is going to then look like this. I already had the basic shape, and now I know exactly what to do to finish it up. Okay, that's just a little of it, and I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching.